All right, well, hey, I want to thank you all for your prayers. Some of you heard I had a little hiccup in Thailand and had a back issue. Turns out I had a bilateral fracture of my L5 that resulted in something called spondylolisthesis, where my L5 slid over forward on my S1 and compressed the sciatic nerve. Put me in the ER in Thailand, but thank God we had some great doctors there and was able to fly home the next day and get treatment here. And the doctor told me it'd be a month to 3 months before the pain subsided, and in a week, about 90% of the pain has gone away. So thankful for all the prayers and the healing, and so still have a lot of numbness in the leg, so if you'd keep praying for that, that would be great. But I just wanted to thank you for praying me home safe and sound, and it's great to be back with you. I'm going to talk a little bit about Thailand in a minute here, but just a reminder, we've got live translation. For anyone that English isn't your first language, you'd be more comfortable listening to it. There's 60 different languages available. You just scan the QR code, put in your ear pods. We average about 15 people a Sunday, which is kind of cool. So we just want to be welcoming to the diverse community that we have here in Mira Mesa. And we actually used this in Thailand. It was really cool to make that available. And I just want to reiterate that tomorrow is Man Monday. Guys, say Man Monday. Right? And so this is about the barbecue brotherhood. Say barbecue brotherhood. All right? There's just something about grilled meat and guys that was divinely made to go together. And you guys know I love to cook, so I've been working on a menu. So I got the best bread ever. I've got my jalapeno bacon mac and cheese, smoked potato salad. We've got sous vide tri-tip, pulled pork, burger perfection, and a decadent 3-berry shortcake with ice cream dessert. So that's the barbecue brotherhood for the guys. So I hope you come hungry. I would encourage you to skip lunch. I think I've got like 60 pounds of meat that's going to be there. But then we're also going to be talking about leadership simplified, right? Where how to easily lead your God-given sphere in a God-glorifying way. And this is really what it means to be a man and to step up in our society. It's going to be at my house tomorrow at 6 p.m. And if, guys, you could RSVP. So just, guys, pull out your phone. Even if you're just humoring me, just pretend like you're taking a picture of this. And RSVP, so it helps me with the food count. So I don't make we don't not have enough, or we have so much we could feed a small village. So tomorrow, 6 p.m., my house, RSVP, you'll get the address there. We're going through the book of Mark. Oh, was that? Let me go back. Are you just playing with me, Phil? It's not good for my back. And I was like, that's not good for my back. I'm going to do that. No, I can't. Pray I can get up now. All right. There we go. All right. So we're going through the book of Mark. We've been talking about the marks of a Jesus-centered life, what it looks to be Jesus-centered. And I was explaining it this way, that we all start off living for self. This is really the definition of sin, rejecting God and choosing to live for ourselves. That's falling short of His glory, choosing my glory over His. And so all these aspects of our lives, from our education, our family, our career, our finances, our kids, our health, when we're living a selfish, self-centered life, they all point to us, right? Everything in my life is about me. Then we get saved, but it's possible to be saved, be a Christian, and still live a selfish life, right? So we move from Jesus being on the outside of our lives to a selfish life where Jesus isn't on the outside. He becomes a part of my life, but it's still all about me. Even Jesus is about me. He's about how he can help me, how he can provide for me. It's all still focused on me, but the goal is to get to move from being a selfish Christian to a Jesus-centered Christian. And this is where Jesus isn't just a key part of my life. He actually becomes the center of my life. And then it's Jesus that begins to influence all the aspects of my life. So we all start self-centered. We move to a selfish Christian, and the goal is to become a Jesus-centered believer. And so where are you on this journey? If you look at your life, you examine your life, kind of where are you just honestly in this? How much of your life is about you versus how much of your life is Jesus expressing himself through every facet of your life? And so we've been going through the marks of what it looks like to be Jesus-centered. Today I want to talk about a topic in Mark chapter 9. It's going to be uplifting humility. Say uplifting. Say humility. All right? And this is about getting low in order to lift others up. So we're going to be in Mark chapter 9, 30 through 37. And if you need a Bible, just raise your hand. Ivan will bring you one. We'd love to have you follow along. This is for you to keep. Just our gift to you so that you can be in God's Word for yourself. So just raise your hand, keep it up. Anybody else? One over here. And so turn to Mark. It's in the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, second book over, chapter 9. There's a table of contents in the front. If you're not familiar with where the books are in the Bible, I'll tell you what page it's on. And let's start reading together in verse 30. It says, they went on from there and passed through Galilee, and he, Jesus, did not want anyone to know, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him. And when he's killed, after 3 days he will rise. But they did not understand what he was saying, and they were afraid to ask him. And they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, what were you discussing on the way? But they kept silent, for on the way they had argued with one another about who was the greatest. And he sat down and called the 12 and said to them, if anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. And he took a child, put him in the midst of them, and taking him in his arms, he said to them, whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. And whoever receives me receives not me, but him who sent me. So, let me ask you a question. Who wants to suffer? Anybody? Nobody? Nobody wants to suffer? All right. Well, the problem is that suffering is a reality. Right? Suffering's just a part of life. Turn to someone and say, it's part of life. All right? It's just part of life. The problem is most people suffer for no good reason. All right? It's just the random difficulty that comes from being part of a fallen world. But Jesus is teaching his disciples about suffering. We saw in chapter 8, verse 31, he said, the Son of Man must suffer many things. He said this in chapter 9, verse 12, he said, the Son of Man should suffer many things. Here we saw this morning, he said, the Son of Man will be delivered and killed. And here's the reality, self-sacrifice is a necessary part of saving the world. There's no way to save the world without Jesus' suffering, without his self-sacrifice, right? Because the world's problem is sin. Remember, we talked about how sin is this rejection of God and living for self. That's what separates us from God. And sin can only be overcome when an innocent person willingly gives themselves for the guilty. Jesus is the innocent one who gave himself to pay the penalty for our sin. Now, following Jesus, being Jesus-centered, means you're joining him in his mission. His mission only advances through a love that gives, that costs, and lays itself down for others. But the disciples are having a difficulty embracing this, right? They know Jesus is the Messiah, but they misunderstand his mission. They think his mission is to make their life better right here and now instead of saving them for eternity. And so they know they're called to follow him, but they just can't wrap their head around the fact that following him involves suffering. And so Jesus is trying to communicate this to them, but they're just not getting it. And they're afraid to ask him about it. And that's why, Pastor, you'll rarely hear a message on suffering because nobody comes back the next week, right? Because when I asked who wants to suffer, who raised their hand? No, nobody wants to talk about suffering, right? It's this reality we all rather avoid instead of understanding that, yes, there's suffering you can't avoid, but there's actually suffering that you can choose for a great reason. And that's self-sacrifice, and it might be hard for you to wrap your head around, but self-sacrifice is involved in being a Jesus-centered follower. So let me ask you, so the disciples don't want to talk about suffering, so what do they talk about? Let's talk about who's the greatest. All right, let's get off this suffering topic. Let's talk about who's the greatest. So let me ask you, who wants to be great? Let me put it a different way. Who wants to be mediocre? Anyone? All right, so the reality is we all want to be great, right? We don't want to be mediocre. We want to be special. Turn to someone and say, I want to be special. All right, turn to somebody else and say, you're special. It'll make them feel good. Well, no. Some of you are like, you're special. All right, not like that kind of special. All right, but the problem is the disciples didn't want to just be great. They wanted to be the greatest. And that's what they were arguing about. Who's the greatest? This word in the Greek, megas, means superior in importance or degree. They want to be at the top of the org chart, right? They want to be higher in authority. They want control and power. And they're eager for status and honor and respect. And we have those exact same tendencies, right? We crave the power of control, right? If you don't realize you crave the power of control, you probably don't have children yet. Once you have children, you will realize how much you miss being in control. Right? We all want to be treated with respect, and we know it's true because we get upset when we don't get it. When we get disrespected, we get upset. When we lose control, we freak out. And this is the proof that we all crave these things in our life. We all want to be greater. And so Jesus calls his disciples and says, okay, you guys want to be great? Let me tell you how to be truly great. And he said, seek to be first, not greatest. And this is a really fascinating twist that Jesus puts on the conversation. They're talking about who's the greatest, and Jesus said what you really should be talking about is who's first. And this word first is protos, and it means before, to be prominent, most important. And Jesus is actually encouraging this, and he gives them a way to become more prominent, to come before others, to be the most important person in the room. And he says, you're going to become first by putting yourself last. And this word last means to come after all others. Not towards the second half of the group, but last. Everyone goes first. You put everyone ahead of yourself. He said, this is how you actually become more prominent. This is actually how you actually become the most important person, by putting everyone ahead of yourself. And in that, not a martyr kind of thing, but by becoming a servant in that last position. And that word servant, diakonos in the Greek, means one who is actively working in the service of others. So here Jesus says, let's change the conversation from who's the greatest to who's the most prominent. Who should be the most important? That's the person who puts everybody else first and approaches life as a servant, where I'm actively engaged in working on behalf of other people. And then he goes on and he says, to keep becoming great, you've got to get low in order to lift up. And he says, he gives an example. He puts a little child, and the word he uses for child there is like a toddler. He grabs a toddler and he puts that little toddler in their midst, and he says, whoever receives a little child, and that word receives means to intentionally and deliberately take into your arms. It's not put up with. It's not tolerate. It's to grab a hold of, right? To scoop up a child in your arms. And a child, especially in Jesus' culture, we kind of romanticize children and worship them to a degree in our society because we have such a fascination for youth. But in Jesus' society, a child had no status. They had no power. They had no authority. The people of Jesus' day would be shocked at how kids rule the world in America and how everything's catered to them. Nothing was catered to children in Jesus' world. They just had to put up with it. Right? I loved when Nan and I lived down in Mexico, right? If your kid was running and ran into a brick wall, it's their fault, right? It's just kids need to learn that you just don't run into stuff. But in our society, we need to understand when Jesus takes this child, he's taking the person who has the least status, the least power, the least authority. And in order to pick up that child, you have to bend down. You have to lower yourself, both physically and socially. So I want you to just, because a lot of times we don't catch the context of what Jesus is doing. For Jesus, a rabbi, to grab a child and pick him up and hold him would have been unusual and even perhaps shocking to those around. And so he's doing something very uncommon. It'd be maybe in our society, it would be maybe a homeless person, going up to a homeless person on the street and hugging them, right? With all the smell and the disease and whatever you associate with who's the lowest in our society, this is what Jesus is doing. He's going up to that person and embracing them intentionally, deliberately. I gave this example to the team in Thailand. I'm going to call it forklift humility. Say forklift humility. Anybody ever driven a forklift? All right. If you've driven a forklift, forklifts are cool. They are big. They are heavy. They are powerful. All right. They are enormously powerful. They're usually very obnoxious. They're usually painted red or yellow. They've got lights that are flashing. When you put it in reverse, they go beep, 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 right? When you're at Home Depot and they're bringing one, there's a guy with flags, right? Forklifts are prominent. And this is the kind of humility that Jesus is talking about. Not the kind of humility that thinks less of yourself, but thinks so highly of yourself that you realize you can do more than just serve yourself. See, forklift humility is different than how we normally think of humility. Jesus said, be first, be prominent, not insignificant. True humility makes a noticeable difference in people's lives. Humble people matter because they make a difference. They use all their strength and power to serve others, not themselves. They're obvious lifters that others lean on in time of need. And I want you to think about, who are the forklifts in your life? Like for me, my dad has always been a forklift. For whatever I've needed, he's always been there in support in every way. For me, my kids, my wife, in every way. For the kids in Haiti, just an incredible example of a humble forklift that makes a difference. And forklifts are also powerful, not wimpy. Turn to someone and say, don't be wimpy. Right? It takes great strength to go against your selfish tendencies. All right? Then when it's time at the end of a meal, like remember Thanksgiving, right? When there's like 1,014 dishes piled on the counter from the family dinner, right? Who are the forklifts? The ones that are the first to jump in there, right? Some of the wimpy guys, or I'm not guys, probably, right? Unfortunately, sometimes the guys are the ones that gravitate to the football game, or like, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom for at least 45 minutes till the dishes are done, right? Because it takes great strength when you're tired, when you're full, to say, I'm going to put other people's needs ahead of my own. Forklift humility is powerful humility. Forklifts lift burdens that other people won't even attempt. They do the hard work behind the scenes that make life better for everyone else when they show up. Forklifts are also not selfish. All right? Jesus said, be a servant, no selfish agenda. Forklifts put other people's needs ahead of their own. They don't need public recognition or praise. And they're eager and not reluctant. They're ready to receive. Forklifts seek out opportunities to serve other people. They find great joy in serving others. Now, the disciples, are they being forklifts? No, they're not seeking opportunities to get under and lift others up. Jesus is the forklift in our story. The disciples, I'm going to call them dump truck arrogance. All right, Jesus is the humble forklift. The disciples have dump truck arrogance, and you've all seen a dump truck, right? They have a load that they're carrying, and they back up, beep, 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 and they just dump their load wherever they happen to be. And some of you, this is you. Or actually, maybe this is more you. All right, you've got a mountain of stuff that you dump constantly. See, dump truck arrogance are people that carry loads that they're eager to dump on others. They carry loads of opinion that they think everybody needs to hear. They carry loads of expectations that others must fulfill. They carry loads of demands that people should meet. And it gets worse. Sometimes they carry loads of criticism or complaints that they always think are valid. They've got loads of frustration and anger that's always somebody else's fault. Or they've got loads of fear and worry that's always clearly justified. Anybody relate? Anybody know a dump truck? Anybody ever been a dump truck? Don't be a dump truck. Turn to someone and say, don't be a dump truck. All right. Instead, be a forklift. Turn to somebody and say, be a forklift. And so I actually have something for you today that is going to get passed out right now. It's just a keychain that says, be a forklift on it. And I want you to take this with you. Okay, I want you to take this with you. And I want to encourage you to put your keys on it, because your keys take you places. Your keys open spaces. So when you're in those places and spaces, I want you to remind yourself, go be a forklift in those places. As you get in your car, go somewhere to be a forklift. When you walk in the door after a long day of work, go in as a forklift. Don't go in as a dump truck. Because, see, forklifts embrace sacrifice. And here's what Jesus is trying to get at with his disciples. What he's trying to get them to understand is that if I put myself last in order to serve others first, my time, treasure, and talent will go to help others, not myself. That's a sacrifice. See, if I put myself last, my needs, wants, and desires will often go unmet. That's sacrifice. But a forklift doesn't measure success the way a dump truck does. A dump truck measures its success by how light it is at the end of the day, how much it got to unload of its own burdens onto others, how much others did for it. A forklift measures success not by who serves me, but by how many people I serve. See, if I make myself low to raise others up, it's going to require sacrifice. I will be taken advantage of. I will be taken for granted. I will be overlooked and underappreciated. But forklift satisfaction doesn't come for what I do for myself. Forklift satisfaction comes from what I do for others. And this was what was so beautiful about the Thailand team. It was a Jesus-centered missions trip with a team full of forklifts. It was such a joy to be on that trip. We left almost 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, for Thailand with this beautiful group of forklifts. And our vision was to establish a strategic partnership for God's glory with the Thailand missionaries and our church. And I can tell you that mission, that vision was realized. They asked us, the Thailand missionaries from our denomination got together and they asked us to be their kind of overseeing church. They asked me to be the field pastor, so you are their overseeing church in a sense. Mission accomplished. We took also the director of mission mobilization for the South Pacific District of the CMA, and we're going to partner with our district with the goal of taking all 110 pastors onto the mission field in the next 5 years. To give them that experience, to give them a heart for what God's doing, not just in their church, but around the world. And so we did that through a simple 3-part mission. So first we wanted to get to know the Thai culture, language, and a little bit of their history. And so we visited some Thai temples, Buddhist temples, and saw a little bit of the culture, and had some coconut water, and got to experience doing outreaches. We actually did an outreach in a Buddhist temple, whole courtyard area. It was really incredible. And then we didn't just get to know the Thai culture, but the beautiful, amazing missionaries and the work that God is doing in Thailand. People like Mark and Kitya, who are the field directors over all the missionaries in Thailand. Like Ed and Sue Daniker. These people have been serving in Thailand for 35 years. 35, they raised their children on the mission field. They're adults, they're still, and they've just finished planting their third church. People, new missionaries like the Mua family who are up in the north, in the Udon area. And then a couple really amazing, faithful women, Beth and Janice. Beth, right here, she actually finished up a full lifetime of missions in the Philippines, and the Philippine field made her retire at 65, so she moved to Thailand so she could keep being a missionary. All right, and Janice is finishing up her 35th year as well. And we're going to go back next June and do a similar thing that we did this year because Ed and Sue and Janice are going to be retiring, and we want to go and send them off with just great love and applause for all that they've done for the Lord in their lifetime. And then this gal, Uwe, who you got a chance to interact with Uwe. She is just an incredible powerhouse for Jesus, knows every single kid and person in the slum neighborhood where they do their work. So we got to meet some really incredible missionaries. So we got to know the Thai people, the Thai culture, the missionaries, the work that God's doing there. And then we had this mission of sharing Jesus by being joyful, by being servants, by being a blessing. And so we got to go to do some remodel at churches where their Thai pastors are meeting, do outreaches with kids in village, play laser tag with some kids in the place where Uwe works. Our last part is to inspire future missions. And we did that by recharging and refreshing the workers in the field, inspiring more workers to go out in the field by sharing God stories, by social media posts, and by doing some podcasts. And so our team got to put on this, you as a church, we got to put on a 4-day retreat for over 70 missionaries who are living and working in Thailand. And your generosity allowed us to do that absolutely free for them. So they got to come and be refreshed and recharged. The team put together gift baskets for them in their rooms, personalized bags with all kinds of goodies and mugs and power banks and all kinds of stuff to encourage them. We got to share meals together and sit at tables across from these people and hear their stories. We got to play games and laugh and just be lighthearted. Scott and Dina took games to a whole new level. I mean, it was just incredible. The laughter, the fun, the energy. We got to encourage them in the Word every day. We got to do workshops. Ray and Lisa did a marriage workshop that every single married couple came to for encouragement. And we don't realize it because we get to go to church every day. Every day. You probably could. We get to be poured into all the times. These missionaries, they're out there on their own. They're the ones that are always pouring out. No one's ever pouring into them. And so for 4 days, you allowed them just to be poured into and loved and cherished. And our kids got to interact. Our kids' team was so incredible. They really knocked it out of the park. And our kids got to play with their kids and build friendships. And they got to interact with each other and really be in a space where they could be vulnerable and share. And It was just incredible. And then we got to do some podcasts. Russ and Ami, we're hoping those come out soon, and you'll be able to hear the stories of incredible missionaries like August and Caro, who have just an incredible vision to mobilize Latino pastors and missionaries from South America to come to Thailand and plant churches. I'm super excited about what they're going to be doing. And I just want to end today by reading a letter from a couple that sent this to us after the retreat. This is the Aguilars. They said, "To our gathering family, from the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thank you for the beautiful retreat you sponsored for missionaries here in Thailand, including our family. Words fall short, but please know how we are beyond thankful for this life-giving experience. We were able to truly rest, to be renewed through the Word, and enjoy every activity that was prepared with such love and excellence. The joy, fellowship, and encouragement we received meant more than we can express. You gave us space to breathe, to laugh, to be filled again, and that is a gift we will treasure. A special thank you from Jordan, that's their daughter, too. She had such an amazing time, she now thinks she's an American. She absolutely loved all the leaders and teachers who took care of the kids and made every moment so fun and meaningful for her. Thank you for pouring into her young heart in such a special way. We also want to thank you for your effort, your energy, your time, your strength, your heart, for reaching out to the missionaries of Thailand. We were deeply touched by your kindness and generosity. Please know that you are remembered in our prayers. We're praying for safe travel, continued strength, and overflowing blessings as you return. May God refresh you as you have refreshed so many. We carry you in our hearts and hope to see you again soon. God bless always. We love you, the Aguilars." And so gather, yeah, you can clap. And that. So I just want to thank you, Gathering Church, for being a forklift church. So turn to someone and say, "Thanks for being a forklift." You guys have inspired future missions, and you really made a difference. For those that went, for those that give, even though we never ask, people have said, "You never take an offering." And we're like, "No, because the forklifts know." Right? The forklifts just know. You don't have to tell a forklift where the offering box is. You don't have to put a plate in front of a forklift. They just know because they're forklifts. And so I just want to thank you for being such an amazing church. And let me pray a blessing over you today. Father, thank you for this amazing church family that you've allowed us to be a part of. Thank you for how you've used us to touch hundreds of lives in Thailand this past month that we know will have a ripple effect. And Lord, we're looking forward to continuing that and for even more to go next year, God. We pray that you would bless our church family. Would you bless every single marriage represented here today? Would you bless every single child? May they grow up to know you and love you and not live for themselves, but live an extraordinary life. And God, would you help us today to put Jesus at the center of everything, that it would be him that shines out from us. May we never live for ourselves, but always for you. We trust you for it. And God, I ask just a special blessing of your favor over this church, over each person here, in Jesus' name, amen. All right, God bless you guys. We've got lunch for you outside. Stick around, fellowship. See you next week.